This is the most expensive steak I've ever bought. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. In my hand here, I hold a box with a couple steaks. You might be able to see here, this thing is big. That's because it comes well packaged. And as you might be able to see right there, it comes from the 4 Sixes Ranch, and that was made famous in the TV show Yellowstone. And that's an actual real working 170,000 plus acre ranch in Texas. And they do raise cattle, make their own steaks. Now, I don't know if the steak that I ordered here actually came from that ranch. I think they might have some partners and equally well-treated cows. But what I wanted to show you here is the steaks that I ordered. Now, first of all, I want to show you a couple things as I unbox this. Comes with this little booklet here about the 4 Sixes Ranch. You can actually go on there, see some of the history, buy some of their merch and stuff like that. But they have lots of cow products here. And it also gives you this code to get $25 off your next beef order over $200. Now, that might seem like a stretch, but I will tell you what, I ordered 2 steaks and they were about $100. So if you're going to order any significant amount of meat, I bet you're going to be over the $200. So you can save yourself a little over 10% there. All right. The other thing that I want to tell you is that the steaks do come packaged in plastic, but the steaks came inside that box, which was lined with insulation and then had dry ice packed on it. And then they were inside this bag here. This is just like a kind of a cheap Tyvek. But what's interesting about this is that it's thermally lined here. So we get this reflective material. It's actually kind of decently padded, like feels like a half a mouse pad thickness right there. And it also has a zipper to close it up here. So I would not call this thermos-like insulated, nor would I say that there is no way that air will leak, because you can see I can find a way to get the air in here. But this is actually a pretty nice sized little insulated tote bag. So I would hold on to this. This is probably like a $5 to $10 piece of equipment right there. Obviously, you're advertising the 4 Sixes Ranch, but make sure you hold on to this thing for the next time you go to the beach or the fair or the Star Trek The Next Generation limited release in theaters remastered screenings. We can sneak in your Coors Banquet in this. All right, now for the reveal, let's take a look at the 2 expensive steaks that I bought. So once we get the box open here and the insulated bag open, this is actually what I get here. I get 2 steaks. They are supposed to be 8 ounces each, which they definitely look like a healthy 8 ounces to me. These are basically the second highest. I think they have something called the Black Label. I think that's their highest end steak offering. It looks like I might be able to open this with my fingers, but maybe I'll just go to the knife. It's another knife. This is a knife. But this is their reserve. And what I noticed on both of the Black Label and the reserve is that basically they are aged for 21 days, which means that they have a waiting period, kind of like a firearms purchase. However, these 21 days actually do something. And I don't know if this is like dry aging or something like that, but I think when you let them rest, the outside kind of hardens up. You get those flavors to concentrate a little bit more inside the meat. And then my guess is they would trim them before they send out what's left. Now, I'm not sure how these were turned, but just want to show you both sides, man. They look pink and delicious. And for 8 ounces, I tell you what, I've ordered steaks in restaurants that are supposed to be 12 ounces. And I feel like these are a generous 8 ounces. You can see some of the marbling in there, which is nice. You won't get a lot of that on the fillet because it's a pretty lean piece of meat, not heavily stressed, but man, if you're a dude like me, obviously one of these will go down very easy with some sides. I know some people who aren't big steak eaters and they would say, hey, we can share these, but are you kidding me? I feel like I'm going to eat 1.5 of these anyway. But we get 2 of these. The other thing I want to say here is the price point. It's deceiving how expensive they are because it's $55 for the 2 of these, which is not cheap. So you're talking about $27, $28 per steak uncooked, and that's okay. But then there's $25 of shipping. Now, considering how well it was packaged and the fact that I can reuse the insulated bag that they sent, that's cool. My guess is I probably got $10 worth of merchandise out of the shipping. So all in, you're going to be like $90+ into 2 steaks. So it's going to be expensive. All right. Now, the other thing I'm going to do here is, like I said, I'm going to use my sous vide and I'm going to cook these to be rare. And I am going to then sear them on a skillet on my stove because I don't have my grill set up. Now, one thing I am going to use here is I'm going to season these with this Weber steak and chop seasoning. And the reason I'm going to use this is because it was only $4 and I didn't really have a lot of other seasonings. And I'm just going to go ahead and give these a little bit of a dusting so that hopefully we can create a crust, because I've noticed that the sous vide, while certainly does cook it, doesn't crust anything. It just creates a cooked steak that is a little mushy. I think some of that's going to fall off there. That's fine. And then dust this other side. All right. Don't know how much I really need here, but in the sous vide, it seems to infuse that into the steak pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to bag each of these up, get into the water. So I've got my water here and I've got my sous vide cooker. Picked this up on Amazon. It was one of the cheapest ones that I could find, and it seems to work pretty well. So if you want to pick this up, I'll put a link to it in the description, but I'm just going to go ahead and change the temperature here. I'm going to lower that. It says 130, but I'm going to lower that to about 120, which I think should get us a rare cook. Probably doesn't matter to get to the exact temp, 120. And then once it gets there, it'll alert me, but then I'm going to set the timer for 90 minutes. And that is because I want to make sure that they're nice and tender, but then when I cook them, then on the stove, it is purely for the crust, and I'm not worrying about it actually cooking the steak. Now, I will also say I don't really have all the tools that you're supposed to have here. I don't vacuum seal these. I found that the water seems to push out the air. If you're having trouble, get your hand in there and push out the air before the water gets too hot. And I just use these binder clips to hold all that stuff in. Okay, so there it is. I've got my 2 steaks in there. So I'm going to set the timer here for 90 minutes, and then we will be, timer is down to 1 minute here, and I can't really smell them because they're bagged up there, but they definitely look further along. So we are going to take them out, and then I'm going to heat up this pan. I actually don't have a cast iron skillet, which is kind of surprising, but not surprising. And then I'm going to sear them in there. So I'm going to get this pan hot, get some oil in here. We are going to need to turn on the exhaust fan here. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm going to turn this sucker to high because we are going to create some smoke, I believe, when we create that bark. All right, so here's the first steak. All them juices coming out there. All right, now I can smell it, and I mean, it smells like steak. So now I'm starting to get a little watery mouth here. So what I have, 2 steaks, and kind of like I expect on sweet, they come out smelling great, and I think ready to eat. But it's just one of those things where the consistency is the same throughout because they've basically been cooked slowly, that you expect that char on the outside. So hopefully that's what we'll do with the pan. All right, now that I've got the pan hot and the oil in there, I'm going to take these steaks with my tongs here, and I'm going to cook them for 30 seconds on each side, and then flip them and cook them for 30 seconds on the other side, and do that one more time. So each side is going to get 1 minute of searing, and then I'm going to get the tongs and just roll them on the edge of the pan to do a little crusting on the outside. I'm trying to get as much heat on these as humanly possible so that they cook quickly on the outside without continuing to cook on the inside. At least that's the plan, except you have a Muppet and a stone trying to execute on it. First flip, started to look like steak. Second flip. I'm just going to try to do these edges a little bit. All right, here are the 2 steaks, and I think they are all done. They smell tremendous, but didn't want to get into them quite yet. So here's the true test. We're going to go ahead and cut into this guy here, and ooh, it's super easy to cut, and look at that. All right. I wouldn't call it rare. I call it medium rare, to be honest, and maybe 90 minutes is too much, but I think that's going to be perfect. But I will just tell you, this is coming apart so easily. It smells so good. So we have got to try this thing and just see if it just looks good, smells good, but tastes like the sole of a shoe. So here's that piece we cut off here, and Great googly moogly. It is so tender. Oh my gosh, and it has so much flavor. It must be that aging. Oh my gosh. It's not even the seasonings on the outside. It's that there's so much flavor inside. I'll tell you, the sous vide makes it so moist. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, this may be the best steak I've ever eaten. And I've eaten in a lot of steakhouses, and I just made this at home. Granted, they are not giving these suckers away, but even this end piece here, which should be the toughest piece because it's got seared. Oh, that is so good. I could have probably even done better with the seasonings on the outside. I just bought that seasoning because it was $4 on Amazon, but it worked a treat here. Sure, throw a little greenery in there too or something that you want to infuse, but man, I just want to end this video because I want to get to the eating because this is so good. And this isn't even the top tier from the 4 Sixes Ranch. This was kind of the second from the top, the reserve. I think the black label is the top one, and it's like $80 a steak or whatever it is, but this is just amazing. And you can make it at home. Like I said, from the sous vide to the seasoning to a pan, which you probably have at home, all of that is going to make it so easy. It's so good. I had Omaha steaks and the other steaks that you buy from the butcher and stuff. Those are all fantastic too. But man, I don't know that this came from a cow from the 4 Sixes Ranch or they have a partner or something like that. But whatever they're doing to the cows, they're killing them with happiness because this tastes happy. Hey, if you want to pick up something for the 4 Sixes Ranch, I don't get anything from it. I think you're going to be really happy with this. Best steak I've ever eaten. I bet even someone who doesn't love steak would find this so tender and juicy that they will eat it. So that's my guess because I would. I bet a cow would be like, oh, this is pretty good. All right, I'm off to dinner. So if you want to pick some of this up, I'll put a link to it in the description below. Peter Von Panda. Out.
We can discover more and explore so much deeper.